All right, from what university are you guys from?
DePaul University.
You are from DePaul University. And what brought you out here today when people are talking about Black Lives Matter? What was you hoping to find or do once you got here?
On behalf of every Syrian and Palestinian that has been killed injusticeably, we're standing here in solidarity with all of the Black lives that have been murdered by Chicago police and authorities. Me too, man. Because we know exactly how it feels.
Okay, let me ask you a question. You know the situation that's happening right now in San Bernardino, California.
Yeah.
And situations like that affects the community, from the Arab community, the Islam community. How you feel? I can hear you English being very well, probably born in this country. How you feel when you find things like that?
When I hear about shootings, public shootings, I think it just further enforces the idea that these are American citizens that are committing these acts of genocide and crime in these public shootings. They're not the refugees. These public shootings have been going on and have been on the rise for the past 10 years. And I think that nothing's being done about that, but we want to prohibit people that we consider to be illegal from coming into the country. That's not America.
Let me ask you a question. President Obama asked for $55 billion to relocate the refugees to the United States. Do you think he's doing that because he has a good heart or because he's going to put the hands into the cookie jar and get some money for themselves? Cookie jar.
Oh, and get some money for
Do you think it's a humanitarian action or a business action as well?
I know that there's always business involved with politics, but I think that just hearing Obama speak about the refugee crisis, I know that he wants, he does understand that even 10,000 refugees is not a drop in the bucket for accepting them, compared to all the other countries in the world that have taken in mountains of refugees.
Yeah.
So I think he does.
We have what we call racial profiling in the United States when we hit a specific group, like Mexicans, like immigrants, Palestinians and things like that. Sometimes we become dehumanized, or they try to dehumanize, but we know deep in our heart some of us are good people. I have lived in the Middle East myself, okay? And I know they're good people, and they're oppressed as well, like the Mexican people is oppressed too, okay? How do you get around the oppression when you see people being mistreated, they see you different, there is lack of understanding and the culture and the religion? I mean, how did you come around on that one?
I just think that seeing that in America, a country that was founded on refugees and immigrants, is always disheartening because we're supposed to stand for, like our own Statue of Liberty stands for welcoming and refuge to people from all around the world. And I think that...
You mean the Constitution of the United States?
And the Constitution of the United States. So I think that it is disheartening, and it's just always really disappointing to see when it comes to politics, because legislation should not be passing to prohibit anyone from coming to them.
And what's your name?
Miriam.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Why are you supporting Miriam here?
Well, I'm supporting Miriam because I see there's this racist fear-mongering being whipped up by Republican legislators, by Bruce Rauner he put out a press release saying that he didn't want to bring refugees into the state of Illinois, and I think ISIS planted a Syrian passport on one of the people who blew themselves up, right? It wasn't actually an attack carried out by Syrian refugees. It was carried out by French nationals. So I think the people who hold the money and power in this country are trying to use the attack that happened in Paris and in Santa Barbara to whip up racist fear against immigrants in this country. And this is a country that's founded on immigrants, right? Every single person who lives in this country, except for Native Americans, of course, who are,
Let me ask you, when Governor Bruce Rauner said he would not want to allow the refugees to come in, that was his remark. But like a few weeks later, we had the incident in San Bernardino, California. How do you react to that one? Or how you explain that to the voters, to the population? How you get around that one?
Yeah. I mean, I think people engage in terrorism because we live in a society that is profoundly unequal, right? And a society that is unequal, as violent as ours, it breaks people. People don't know how to respond to it other than with violence, right? So I think until we have a society that's based on equality and justice, until we have a whole world that's based on equality and justice, there's always going to be terrorism. I think Howard Zinn said something really intelligent. After 9/11, he wrote in an article, he said that, how can you have a war on terrorism when war itself is terrorism? War is always an attack on
Let me ask you this question to you guys. There is a guy from Bosnia. He's a Muslim. He was granted citizenship. He came to the United States as a refugee. was granted citizenship. He's from Utica, Illinois, and this incident happened right after Bruce Rauner made those remarks. And the guy was supplying caviar jackets, night vision goggles, supposedly to ISIS in Syria. How did you get around that one?
The matter of the fact is that we cannot look at the actions of some and prohibit and consider it to be representational of an entire body of people. As a Muslim, as an American, as a Palestinian, I know that ISIS and all of those radical groups do not represent Islam, and they're twisted people that are twisting something otherwise harmless and peaceful. So I think that, like he mentioned, with radicalism and terrorism, we have our own homegrown terrorists here that are those ones, public shootings and school shootings. And he was an American citizen, the San Bernardino guy that you keep mentioning.
Let me move to her. What's your name?
My name is Jumana Kassar.
Okay, what can you tell me about your culture? What would you like to tell to the American people who we are, what we drink about it? You're American born?
I'm American born. As an American or as a Muslim or as a Syrian? Which one do you want me to talk about?
I'm talking about you right now.
Me? I was born American. I was born here. My dad's a Syrian immigrant. I was born and raised Muslim. I feel that people like Trump, people like Browner, all these politicians who are demonizing Muslims and Syrians just because they happen to have been born into a certain culture is really wrong. And in all honesty, if Islam really did preach terrorism, there's over 1.5 billion Muslims in the world. There's no way that many people can be terrorists. I mean, the rest of society wouldn't be able to function.
Let me ask a question. If you were Madam President of the United States, what would you do?
Oh, that's a hard one because I don't want to go into politics. One of the things that I would definitely stop aid to Israel. Israel is definitely one of the biggest causes of harm to the Middle East and one of the biggest causes of conflict to the Middle East.
You mean Israel. How you feel about Israel moving into Gaza, Palestine, and taking their land away and then building a fence to keep them out of their own land? How you feel about that?
I honestly, I hate it. I hate that the Israelis think that creating this apartheid state is okay, that invading the Gazan land, the Palestinian land is okay. The Palestinians back in World War II, they welcomed the Jewish people who were survivors of the Holocaust, who were survivors of Nazi Germany. They welcomed them in as refugees. They offered them shelter. Now the Jewish people have taken over the country, and these Zionists are taking over the country, and they are killing Palestinians who are living there, who have lived there for generations before Israel even existed. So I can't honestly say that it's...
Let me ask you a question. A biblical question. You ever hear about Daniel?
Vaguely.
Daniel. You ever hear of Daniel?
Yes, but I'm confused as to why
okay.
The Bible is really...
But you know who's Daniel in the Bible, right? Supposedly he was a Hebrew. And he existed in about the 7th century in Babylonia, when the Babylonians conquered Israelites, and they took them prisoner after destroying their life. So how could we understand the situation after the Exodus in Germany, Israelites coming to Palestinian, when these people were back there in the 7th century? How?
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't think you should be bringing the Bible into contemporary political questions.
No, it's not political. It's just a question that I'm asking you because I want to make sure we have chronological understanding when the Israelites were in Israel. In my understanding, for what I read, they were there in the 7th century, and they were caught by the Babylonians.
Think that events from the 7th century should have a say in what the political issues today?
Because she mentioned that they were brought from Germany, or they came. I know Palestinians after World War II opened the doors for them to come to Palestine in a humanitarian way.
In the contemporary political landscape, Palestine was the home of the Palestinians.
Okay.
That they were the original people, the indigenous people of Palestine. We can debate what happened in the 7th century, but in the contemporary political landscape, the Palestinian people, who are the indigenous people, and what should be put out there is that Zionism is a form of colonialism. We have no problems with the Jewish people. They have no problems with the Jewish people. Our problem is with Zionism as an ideology, because Zionism is a form of imperialism and a form of colonialism.
Okay, let me ask you a question. How can you brand them as Zionism?
What's the publication that you're with?